Hello, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Datacron Set 8 review. This is called Wandering Wisdom, and today we're going to look at what's good, what is bad, and what is ugly about this set. Starting with stats, moving through alignment mechanics, faction, and character mechanics per faction. This one is the first one after 3 sets of single alignment Datacrons. We have a dual alignment Datacron. It's both light side and dark side, which has its ups and downs, which I'll get into. If you enjoy, like the video, and don't forget to subscribe if you haven't done so already. And now to look at the stats. And just fair warning, I had to put this out before I actually had access, or I had to do this review before I actually had access to the Datacron in-game, so if the stats are different, that is a possibility. They've had errors on the announcement in the past. But if it is all correct, this is probably the worst set of stats I've seen in a long time, if maybe ever. We got crit avoid. The good ones are crit avoidance. This is level 7 to 8 bonus. So this is the max bonus you can get. I'm not showing like level 2 to 3 or 1 to 2 or 4 to 5. So those are lower degree. The good ones are crit avoidance, crit damage, and protection. Protection is probably the best. I should have probably put it on top. It's the best. I think crit damage is second best, but those can all be avoided. Crit avoidance helps mitigate crit damage. But then we also have crit chance, which can help mitigate crit avoidance. But I still think of crit chance and hellsteel as bad just because they're situational. I mean, it's good to have 1 or 2 really high hellsteel Datacrons, but it's not really worth going out of your way for. This is like lower than what set 1 had on like the basic bonus. So yeah, you can stack a lot up. It's good for like Rey and Supreme Leader Kylo that have a ton of health to work with. But a lot of characters, if they're getting low on health and need the health steal, they're already in a bad spot because they don't have a deep enough pool to need the health steal. So that's why I give those the bad rating. But the worst, the ugly one, ugly, I went back to ugly. Ugly is if it's highlighted in orange, it's really bad. If it's highlighted in black, it's very strong, and that's why it's ugly. But accuracy, unless they have dodge integrated, it's kind of useless, and even if they do, that's still ugly because we have to deal with dodge again. And this is weird. If there's no dodge in this set, then maybe this is prepping for set 9, which would have dodge or deflection, maybe just evasion flat. What is good is that it's just pure accuracy. It's not physical or special accuracy, because it was just too petty. It was like, just give us full accuracy. So it's ugly if there's no dodge. It's ugly if there is dodge because that means there's dodge. So for now it's a useless stat. And if dodge is in set 9, as I was starting to say, then after set 8 expires, we won't have the answer anymore. So I would prefer accuracy to be in the same set as dodge. That's just my take. Kind of a bad set of stats. Moving on to faction alignment mechanics level 3. Looking at the dark side first. And there's some good ones. This is a return. This is a repeat of set 5. It's the protection up 5% for damage over times on an enemy. And I'm pretty excited about this for Wampa specifically. Lord Vader too. But Wampa just feels so much less usable without this. When I had it before, I always just felt so safe going against teams. But I wasn't able to use Wampa as much after set 5 expired. So I'm pretty excited about that. Other notable dot teams are Tusken Chief. The new Tuskens are going to be crazy with this. They're going to be impossible to kill pretty much. Darth Vader stacks a lot, and BT1 gives a lot of dots too. And next up, for good, we got Dark Side Allies. When Dark Side Allies start their turn with at least 2 buffs that can be dispelled, kind of specific. They gain 5% offense until the end of the encounter. It's not a huge boost, and it is pretty situational. You could get maximum 5% offense per turn, but it has a wide variety of applications. I didn't think of much to show here. It doesn't take much to get 2 buffs. That being said, dark side is less buff heavy than light side, so this is actually a better light side bonus, but you have to roll it there. Which, by the way, it's kind of nice having dark side and light side level 3s, but also it's difficult because that means there's 10 total. If you want one specifically for one specific faction, your chance of getting it goes from 20% to 10%. So take that for what it's worth. Next up is whenever dark side allies start their turn, for each enemy with fewer than 4 debuffs, the ally gains 30% potency until the end of the turn. So this is pretty good. It's like a free up to 150% potency if they don't have 4 debuffs, which is most of the time until you get going. And after they have all the debuffs, you're pretty much off to the races. I think it will work best for these ladies. Mara Jade. Definitely to get started, you might be able to start with the bomb for the stagger and the shock instead of the tenacity down. And then Palpatine, it'll help him get his stun and shocks. And then Aphra loves potency. So turn 1, she's going to have tons of extra potency, and it'll increase a lot of her other stats. Next up, the bad. Starting with dark side allies recover 2% health when they critically hit an enemy. The only good application of this I can think of is Lord Vader, because he just is all health, or his whole team is all health. He has such a high health pool. He does his AoE, he's healing an extra 10% on top of whatever the health steal. But otherwise, it's really bad. It would be ugly if not for Lord Vader, because that's not enough health to recover if you are actually under 100% health. It's just, I don't know, it's just such a little boost. And last one is when dark side allies grant a buff to another ally, the ally recovers 3% health and protection. So this is pretty bad just because dark side allies or dark side characters don't give out a ton of buffs. Some exceptions though, I would say, are Wattian Bork. He's giving out a couple stacks of heal over time to everyone when he assists, so that'll be like 6% heal, health and protection just from him assisting. And then Trench gives out protection up a lot. There could be other applications I'm missing, but overall it's not too strong, and it would be too slow for a lot of teams anyway. Next up is light side, and there are definitely some advantages to this with light side. Like I stated earlier, the buffs ones are going to be stronger for light side. Let me just show both of them, because there's plenty of buffs to go around with light side. Light side is more about buffs, and dark side is more about debuffs, even though they're not mutually exclusive. That's just how it works out. So notably, JMK and JML are going to have, their team's going to be having a lot of buffs on them, so they're going to be ramping up their damage pretty quick. So I'll probably go for that for them. Zori's team has a lot of buffs. Hunter's team, the Bad Batch, they have a lot of buffs on them all the time. But really, it's going to have broad applications, so that's why I gave the infinity symbol. Same with the recovering health protection. Yoda will heal up one. Yoda combined with Bastor is going to heal up a team a lot. This is not as good as the set 7 level 3, because that is just when they gain a buff, they recover 2% health and protection. So it's more flexible. It's not like they have to be granted it by another ally. It's not too limiting, but I don't know. Maybe sometimes they can give themselves buffs, and it's not going to apply. So Yoda probably won't heal himself with this. Same with Bastila. So it's not super great, but it is decent. Next up, with the potency. It's going to have some uses, but a lot of the times, as you see with these characters are recommended, they're making better use of set 7, so this is something to keep in mind for after set 7 expires. Like CLS, you're not going to use a set 8 Datacron. Same with the T3 if he's on Sorry Squad or an R2, because they have a droid bonus. But for like General Skywalker, this is probably a good bonus. The stats are bad for a General Skywalker team mostly, but starting out with a ton of potency is going to land all his days, which is going to be really nice. And R2, the T3 wants to land a bunch of debuffs, so it'll work great with him. And CLS gains a lot from inflicting debuffs as well. Next up for the bad, we got the dot one, and just dots are not as fluent with light side characters. It's more of a dark side thing. But there are a couple applications. Karth and IG-11, or the full Karth team is doing a lot of dots. And IG-11 can flip a ton of dots on the other team, and then he's going to be super tanky. But it's just not totally worth it. It might be worth it for a Scoundrel team to get this on him, but otherwise, yeah, we didn't have light side last time with the dot stacking, so who knows how well it'll do with IG-11. And then for Ugly is the 2% health recovery when critically hitting an enemy. Light side doesn't have any characters that have all health and a super tanky amount to make this worthwhile, so it is just plain ugly, just really bad. Now we got the faction mechanics, starting with Tuskens, and this is the same structure as set 7 in set 6, where there's one signature faction mechanic, and then the rest of the 6 are just recycled and available to each faction in their own way. So the signature one is when a Tusken ally critically hits an enemy, they gain 1% turn meter, which is helping Tuskens because they want their enemies to get turn meter. And then when an enemy takes damage from a damage over time, Tusken allies recover 10% protection, gain 5% counter chance up to 100. If a Tusken ally is activated in the leader slot at the start of each turn, all enemies inflicted with damage over time can't recover health. So they have incredible synergy with dots. So you want, for Tuskens, probably the level 3 dot protection up, and then this one, I'll just tell you that right now, but there's plenty of other good ones for Tuskens if you can't roll this. And then they're going to be like impossible to kill because of all the dots. Other good ones to start out with are the damage immunity one. This is recycled from set 5 that First Order had and Bounty Hunters. It's like just a little savory mechanic. It's not undispellable damage immunity, but it is pretty nice. It's a very flexible tool to use. But since it's one Tusken team, really, I don't know. You're kind of stuck with what you got. In 3v3, you might want this one since you don't have the Tusken Chieftain on 2 teams. And then also, if they fall below 50% health, all allies reduce cooldowns by 1, gain 10% turn meter. That one's okay. I'd prefer the damage immunity. 10% turn meter isn't a ton, but the cooldown reduction is good. Next, when Tusken allies have full health and protection, they deal 100% more damage on their turn. That's pretty strong. It seems like they'll have full health and protection a lot. They're going to be protected by protection up, so that's actually pretty great. They can kill on their own instead of having to rely on dots. And then this is basically semi-permanent defense penetration, offense penetration up, unless you get dispelled after the first turn. So at the end of the turn, Tusken allies gain defense penetration, offense up for 1 turn. So after turn 1, they're going to get that and keep getting it for the rest of the match. There's no other conditions. The fact that it has not many trigger conditions makes it kind of good. Otherwise, it wouldn't be too great. But it is nice to have those two. Very nice. And the bad, I don't know. This one could be good. At the end of each turn, Tusken allies recover health and protection equal to 50% of the amount enemies recovered that turn. This can't trigger this effect on enemies. The reason I put it bad for Tuskens is because they have so much healing mechanics already built in with this, and they're going to be at full health and protection anyway for most of the time. And then this one, when Tusken allies critically hit an enemy during their turn, they gain 10% offense for 2 turns. So this could work well with Tusken Warrior if it gets does she have AoEs? I don't know. I don't think there's no AoEs going around for Tuskens, so that's not super strong, and it only lasts for 2 turns, and it's only during their turn. If it was with assists, it might be better, but as it is, not very great. And I have the best value stamp given to the signature one. It's not always that the signature one is the best, but here I'm giving it to that one. That is the one to go for if you do have a Tusken team. And there's nothing ugly in the faction mechanics for Tuskens right now. Moving on to Separatists. This is more up my alley because I have Separatists. Starting with their signature level 6. Separatist allies are immune to daze. Great. Enemies with extortion have minus 100% critical chance and potency. Pretty nice. But this is the kicker. Whenever a non-droid Separatist ally uses a special ability on their turn, they gain Riposte for 1 turn. Riposte is an incredible buff. We haven't seen it since set 2 anywhere, and otherwise it's native to Count Dooku. It was one of my favorite buffs listed in that video that barely anyone watched. This is going to be crazy. It's going to be crazy for Geonosians because every single turn, everyone's attacking the L out of turn. After you do one round, one go through with the whole Geonosian team, they're just going to be all hitting under health the whole time. That's going to be, I don't know, this could be broken with them if we have a great combination with a level 9 for Separatists. And this one is going to be crazy. Also going to be very good for Trench. Obviously, it's built in to work with Newt because of the extortion thing. But Trench is going to be calling a lot of people to assist too. So this could really pick up the Trench team. Definitely the one to go for with Separatists, except droids. One option for droids after set 7 expires, because I think that's probably better for General Grievous, is the damage immunity one. If you were facing a team that doesn't have dispels, they could get stuck behind Vanguard for a while. And then the full health and protection doing 100% more damage is kind of crazy. Crazy potential. Django's going to have a couple hits at that because he has certain damage immunity, so that's going to be insane damage. And then B1, I think he's technically always at full health and protection, so he's going to do more damage there. And then these two are kind of good, but not like... I still probably wouldn't prioritize them. The cooldown reduction, 10% turn meter for falling under 50% health, it's like okay. It's actually... that's kind of the more middling ones. But the protection health recovery based on 50% of the enemy's recovery would work pretty well for Geonosians, since they're always sharing their health and protection. Like everyone always needs some health and protection recovery. So that's a good second option for Geos. The bad is the defense penetration and offense up for 1 turn. It's actually okay on Geos, but there's so many like better alternatives. And then ugly, we do have one ugly. It's when they critically hit during their turn, they gain 10% offense, stacking for 2 turns. It could work well with Django. But with like Grievous, he doesn't care about offense, and he's the big damage dealer there. And for Django on a Separatist team, you don't want to prioritize this, so that one's pretty bad for now. The last faction, and kind of a long predicted one, is Unaligned Force Users. People have been calling this for a long time, because it's great. It's a great multi-alignment faction, and we knew we were going to get Tuskens, and Separatists seemed like an easy call because of Trench, and they wanted to prop him up. So this was maybe the most foreseeable set in terms of factions. And actually the Unaligned Force User faction is probably the strongest one. I had to move myself over here because we're going to have a full screen with this one as far as recommendations. The signature one is kind of complicated and hard to see the full impact for it. We'll have to see over time. Whenever a dark side or light side, they're just making it explicit there because it's probably going to be gated for light side alignment, but it's still going to apply to dark side. Whenever a dark side or light side UFU critically hits an enemy, dispel all debuffs on them and gain 5% turn meter. That's kind of nice. Whenever a dark side or light side UFU uses a special ability against an enemy with at least 3 buffs, so that makes the Inquisitors. And also once Cal gets his debuffs out there, reduce that enemy's max health by 5%. That's pretty strong. It doesn't say it can't be resisted though. And then lastly, whenever a dark side or light side UFU uses a special ability, they have at least 3 buffs when they have at least 3 buffs that can be dispelled, gain 5% max health. So it's a lot of like little things, like 5%. It's a game of inches. And I don't know. I wouldn't say this is the best one, but I'd probably use it with Grand Inquisitor on a normal Inquisitor team, or Riva maybe. But I probably don't think it's the best one for Riva, and we'll get into that. CLS would be okay, and Cal Kestis would probably be a good use of it too. Next one we're looking at is the Protection Health Recovery. I think this is much better with UFUs than it is for Tuskens or Separatists, because you have high health and protection characters like Supreme Lord Kylo, Rey, and Kylo Ren Unmasked that are going to be pretty below their full health and have plenty of room to recover. Especially Rey, her whole kit is built around giving up her own health. So if she's recovering that own health passively, it's going to be crazy. She's going to be getting close to full health all the time. And I saw a fly there. And yeah, she's going to be whirlwinding way more easily. It's probably the best one for a Rey team. And then Supreme Lord Kylo as well. That's going to keep him topped off a lot. Very strong for UFUs. And then the defense penetration, offense up for 1 turn. That's going to be pretty strong for these hard-hitting unaligned force users that don't naturally get these buffs a lot, especially Supreme Lord Kylo in Maul. Defense penetration up less for Maul, but offense up is going to be great. He's going to have that the whole time he's doing his shout attack. So that's going to scale the damage up even higher. And then Ben Solo can use these as well. So that's pretty strong there. Another strong one is damage immunity. For everyone except Rey, this is probably useful. It's just a nice fail-safe. Just pretty good universal application. You could find a use for it somewhere. The bad, I got 2 I think are not great. Well, They critically hit an enemy during the turn, you get 10% offense for 2 turns. Supreme Lair Kylo could get up to 100% from that, so it could be decent for him. I still like offense up and defense penetration up for 2 turns better because he's not always going to be AoEing unless he's an ultimate, and it kind of comes out to a close approximation anyway. You start with 50% offense anyway from the offense up, which would be 1 AoE, and then defense penetration too. So I probably would go with that and wouldn't apply this there. And then the 50% health, Funk below 50% health, reducing cooldowns by 10% turn meter. I just don't think it's a good option given the other stuff out there. You could make use of it, but just the 10% turn meter isn't great, and you don't want to be having people dip below 50% all the time anyway. However, was possibly the strongest one and the first strong ugly mechanic so far is when Ufu allies have full health and protection at the start of their turn, they deal 100% more damage on their turn. This is going to be particularly ugly for 8th Brother on a Reva team. He's already doing like 150,000 damage plus on AoE, so this comes in after the damage calculation, and they go so fast right out the gate. He's probably going to go before getting hit and wipe out a whole team. So I am not looking forward to that. I think it's going to be insane. And it could, for all these hard-hitting unaligned force users, it could be pretty crazy, especially with Rey. Think of if you have a way to heal her up after she gets an ultimate doing double damage, crazy. Cat's force leave is going to be insane, but that's a little bit less. I mean, it's just one target that takes a long time to build up. Starkiller is going to do a lot if he can stay topped off, and then Supreme Lair Kylo is less likely to have full health and protection, I think. But that would be insane for him too. So that is probably the strongest level 6 in the whole set, is 100% more damage for unaligned force users. Alright, now on to the level 9s with character mechanics, starting with Tuskens. It's kind of funny, there's 5 Tuskens and each of them have a level 9. The good ones surprised me. It's Tusken Raider and for Tusken, it's at the start of the encounter, he gets an additional 25% offense for each Tusken ally. So 125% on a full Tusken team. It's pretty strong. And then when he uses his special, dispel all debuffs or buffs on the enemy and deal 20% more damage per buff dispelled. So this is like Boba Fett's rocket. That's very good. And then whenever a Tusken ally assists during his turn, they recover 100% protection. So that's really strong. It's probably the best or second best level 9 for Tuskens, and it can be used in 3v3 because he's got that overcome for 3v3. And he's gonna assist all the time. Anytime a Tusken uses an ability, he's assisting constantly. So it's like Ahsoka, but double, but 50% damage. So yeah, pretty good for that. What surprised me is they made the Tusken Chieftain one kind of lackluster, in my opinion. Whenever another ally attacks during Tusken Chieftain's turn, he and that ally gain 25% turn meter. So I need to double check his kit. Okay, yeah, I was just double checking to see if he didn't have if he had a mass assist. He doesn't, so yeah, I think it's pretty bad. Then Tusken Shaman, if it was a different character, maybe it'd be better. Whenever an enemy is stunned, Tusken Shaman takes a bonus turn. That should happen a lot with Chieftain Zeta, but you don't want to take Tusken Shaman to R7. And if you wanted a Tusken taking turns, Tusken Shaman is probably the least impactful. But probably the strongest is Tusken Warrior. He starts with 10 stacks of momentum, so he's already got an edge there with survivability and all that. And then when she gains momentum, she gains 2% crit damage and defensive penetration per stack for the rest of the encounter. So it's not tied to the momentum being there, just anytime she gains it, she's increasing crit damage and defense penetration. This is going to stack so much faster and so much higher than like the stacking crit damage from set 7 is. This is going to get through the roof. Tusken Warrior is going to be crazy. And then whenever finishing strikes defeats an enemy, it prevents revives. And then you revive all Tusken allies at the end of the turn if there's just one Tusken ally active. I would assume that means other Tusken ally, because if she does the finishing blow, she's alive. But yeah, that's probably the strongest one I'd apply at Tusken Raider. If you want 2 Tusken ones for 3v3. I mean, the Tusken Raider could be pretty crazy too anyway. Yeah, it gives a lot of flexibility with preventing revives, reviving your own team like Jolie Bindo, and gaining tons of damage from that. Next up, we got Separatists level 9s. A couple good ones, couple bad ones. A good one is Poggle the Lesser. This is the only Geonosian one. Geo allies have 20% max health and max protection. It's okay. Whenever Poggle evades an attack, all allies gain 20% max health, and he has extra evasion into his kit, so that can happen quite a lot. Whenever another Geonosian ally evades an attack, all allies recover 20% health, which is nice. Whenever an enemy gains a buff, Poggle gains evasion up for 1 turn, so increasing the likelihood that you're going to get that max health increase. And then whenever a Geo ally is inflicted with a debuff, dispel all debuffs on Poggle, and then he gains 5% turn meter and lowers the cooldown of Warlords resolved by 1. So you're pretty much going to solve your day's problem with Geonosians, because anytime anyone's getting debuffed, Poggle shreds all the debuffs on himself, unless it's like an undispellable stun, and he's getting back to his turn faster to get his cleanse. That is pretty strong. It's actually borderline ugly. You just have to take Poggle to R7. But Geonosians probably will be back on the table with this set. The bad is Nuke Gunray and Dooku. This Nuke Gunray one, this is a recycled First Order Stormtrooper level 9, which was bad then. And, you know, maybe it could do something in as a General Grievous support, but just not really worth it. I already have an R7, which is unfortunate that it's bad. It's just barely doing anything. Recover only 40% health. Take a bonus turn. I mean, his turn is more impactful than like First Order Stormtrooper, but it's still bad. Dooku's is bad. Anytime he inflicts ability block, gain 10% turn meter. It's just not what you want. It's just very little. I mean, he does inflict ability block a lot, but it's just such a little amount of turn meter. Jango Fett, this is another recycled one. This was Sith Troopers in set 5, and it's just terrible. At the start of Jango Fett's turn, they have only 20% chance to gain defense penetration for 1 turn. If you have the level 6 that's giving offense up and defense penetration for 1 turn, it's just completely pointless. It's so bad. And now this strong, ugly, I don't know, maybe I'm giving it too much credit, but Admiral Trench, no surprise. Non-droid Separatist allies start the encounter with tactical supremacy for 2 turns. Well, it's a good buff. And then whenever Separatist allies gain a stack of heal over time, which is a lot, gain 5% crit chance, max 200 for the rest of the encounter. Whenever allies gain a stack of protection over time, they gain 5% defense. It's going to happen a lot too, so they're going to be durable. And then when Trench uses his basic on his turn, call all allies with a riposte to assist. So that's why you want to combine this with that level 6. The signature one that gives riposte, they're going to be assisting like crazy. It's going to be Geos on his turn, and they're going to just take people out because they deal a lot more damage than Geos with Jango. So that part is probably the craziest. And then whenever Trench shocks an enemy, he gets protection up 25% for 1 turn. So Admiral Trench is the best. Poggle is the second best. The rest are pretty much crap. It would have been cool to see a Separatist droid one here, but we already have that in set 7, so I don't know. Get Trench and consider putting Poggle to R7. And last but not least, we have Unaligned Force User level 9s, starting with the good. Mara Jade and Ahsoka Tano Fulcrum. Ahsoka Tano Fulcrum, I'm not experienced with her, so I just gave it a good for Territory War. She gains 10% off health, steal, defense, and 10 speed whenever she gets Retribution, which I think happens a lot. So that's nice for Territory War, and can work with Cal pretty well, but you probably don't want this one on a Cal team. Mara Jade, the Emperor's Hand, is pretty good. She's a great R7 candidate if you don't have her already. At the start of any other non-EP ally's turn, Emperor Palpatine, Mara Jade gains a stack of Loyal Hand. Whenever an ally with less than 100% turn meter gains bonus turn meter, they get 3% crit chance, crit damage. So this seems like more impactful on a full Empire team because they're going to be getting turn meter from Palp's lead all the time. Then whenever an enemy is inflicted with shock, they take damage equal to 10% of max health. So even if you still just use it on a Starkiller team, you're inflicting shock a lot, and it's going to melt people with that bonus damage. And it's fine if Palpatine's the one doing it too. So that's pretty strong with the shock stuff and stacking crit damage and crit chance. Bad. Ben Solo. It's not terrible on paper, but in practice, it's not going to be that impactful. First time Ben Solo goes below 100% health, recover 100% health protection, gain 100% turn meter. So if you set round defense, it's pretty easy to get around. You just poke him under 100% when he's close to full turn meter anyway. And people are used to knocking Ben Solo down over and over again because of his zombie-like mechanics. So it's not going to be too much for him. He gets one other turn, which you could get around if you're on offense. If you're using him on offense, I don't know, it might be a nice failsafe. Especially, it might help with Rey against Riva, but also, yeah, I don't know. It might be have some uses. Anyway, ugly but bad ugly is Visas Mar. She gains 15% turn meter when other allies use special ability on their turn. It's like, great, okay, even if she gets a full turn meter, who cares? It's Visas. Like, no one cares about Visas taking a turn unless someone's dead. Could make it easier for her to come back, but if someone's dying, then it's probably the other team's taking a lot of turns, not your team for special abilities. It's really, really bad. The best one is Cal Kestis. No surprise because he's brand new and I will not probably get to use it. Cal's 100% potency and all other Uvus gain half that amount. So right off the bat, crazy potency for the team. The weakest enemy is stunned at the start of the encounter for one turn, which can't be resisted. And then Cal, I think it means Cal gains a bonus turn. That's crazy. Just right off the bat, someone's stunned on the other team, someone probably important, and then Cal gets a bonus turn. He gets to use his AoE debuffs, and then this kicks in. Whenever Cal applies the debuffs, Unaligned Force user allies gain 3% turn meter. So he does an AoE triple debuff. That's like, mind fart on math. That's 15 debuffs, so that's like 45% turn meter to the whole team. That's insane. And whenever an enemy attacks the light side or dark side Ufu with protection up, they are inflicted with speed down for one turn. Okay, so we already give speed down out on his AoE, his debuff AoE. But yeah, this one's just very strong. He's gonna, on a Rey team, this is gonna be crazy. They're all gonna start out with like basically 50% turn meter. Someone's gonna be stunned. Just crazy. CG thinks this is just gonna be on like a Seer team, but he's gonna be with Rey all the time, and it's gonna be nuts. Alright, so that's it. That's the whole set reviewed. Just my take on it, and things could change in the future. We'll have to see. It could even change when it gets in game, so don't hold it against me. If there's something missing that was in the game that I didn't get to see yet before making this video. I hope you learned how to use it, what to shoot for during Conquest, and what to look out for in your own matches. It's going to be an interesting one. That's it. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed, thumb up, and don't forget to subscribe. Have a good one, guys. See you later.